What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So in one of my previous videos, I talked a little bit about how I wanted to start posting some different kind of content on here, talking about fitness, talking about manifestation, and not just keeping it to EDM related stuff. That said, I got the idea to shoot this video through talking to one of my friends on the phone earlier, shout out Jesse, and it was about my experience with moving out here to LA to pursue a career in content creation and realizing that I sort of manifested the entire thing to happen, from me actually moving out of Orange County, which is where I'm originally from. And I wanted to tell a little bit about my story and how that happened, because manifestation is something that is extremely interesting to me and important to me, and is something I guess I've kind of been studying over the last few years. And so just especially because I've been consuming a lot of manifestation content recently, I kind of wanted this to be a journal of sorts, or kind of like a recollection of events that happened, to kind of give you guys my experience on that. If anyone out there is in maybe a similar situation where they're trying to move somewhere or pursue their career and follow their dreams and they don't know how to get there. So for my story, I'll start in 2017, which is when I graduated from college. I graduated from UCSD with a major in visual media and a minor in business. I wanted to be a director at the time. I wanted to actually make movies. But then this summer, after I graduated from college, I got the opportunity to go PA on a couple of sets. PAing sucks. Like, no one likes PAing. If you don't know what PAing is, by the way, it stands for production assistant. And you're basically like the mule on set. Like, you're the person that the higher ups are asking to go get their coffee and go get them granola bars and bring them the strawberry flavored LaCroix. That job does suck, but I will say that that wasn't really the reason that it sucked so much for me. I honestly just didn't like the hours spent on set, although it was really cool being on a film set. I didn't want to be stuck with this job that had crazy hours and would sometimes go, 18-hour days, or go to like these crazy locations where you're gone for 3 months at a time. Like, I didn't want to do that, because one of my biggest goals in life is I want to start a family and be there for my children and, not be away at work all of the time. And so after I decided that I didn't want to do directing, I then shifted over to, well, what can I do with my Viz Arts degree? Not that there really is much you can do with that anyway. You really don't need it. So I visited this executive producer at William Morris Endeavor, who I was able to get connected with through my mom's boyfriend at the time. And he told me that I should start talking to and reaching out to any content creators that I knew of already, or even if I didn't know them, just reach out to them and basically offer to edit videos for free for them, to somehow get in with them, or to start working with them, and to, I guess, just start working in the content creation space. And so I did exactly that, because I actually had a friend from high school who ended up blowing up and becoming a huge YouTuber. He's still a huge YouTuber to this day. Shout out Berleezy, by the way. But Berlin, which that's his name, we had gone to high school together, and Berlin had seen me make a few videos throughout my college career that I had posted on my Facebook, and he would kind of respond to here and there and be like, yo, this was really dope. Like, this actually made me feel something. And at the time, Berlin was just getting into his career as a YouTuber and was just starting to see really big success. And so after I graduated and had this talk with his executive producer at WME, I actually ended up reaching out to Berlin, asking if he maybe wanted to work together and for me to edit or shoot videos for him, especially since he lived in my area in Orange County back home. And so Berlin said yes initially, but then there were some plans to make this other video and they kind of didn't happen, and that fell through. So then a couple months went by and nothing really happened. And I had this epiphany coming into, I think it was Christmas of like 2017. And that epiphany was, well, what if I just started making this content on my own? Do I really need to make the content for someone else? I can just do this myself because this is literally what I've been working on doing in college. And I know I have the capabilities of doing it. I knew how to script write. I knew how to edit. I knew how to put together shoots. I even knew how to throw together like a small crew from people who didn't even have any sort of previous film experience, which is literally something I did for the entire first year and a half that I was making content for, period. Looking back on it, I did a video a week for like almost an entire year in 2018, and I have no idea how I did that. Like, I'm talking during the week, I would write the script for like 2 to 3 days. I would work on it, and then I would message a bunch of my friends and ask if anyone was available during that weekend to shoot. And then some would miraculously agree, or in some cases, I even had to go into like Facebook Marketplace and ask for people, which is actually funny. I met this one friend who I ended up actually paying him to help me with a gig with a shiny Snorlax Pokemon card. Crazy. But I was able to do this within the span of like 5 days, shoot the video on the weekend, and then edit the video in 1 to 2 days. It was crazy. And then post it that following week. And so this relates to the title of this video because I do want to talk about how just shifting your mindset can make a huge, huge difference in getting you to where you want to go. So I'm going to talk a bit about my experience and what my mindset was like during this time. And I'll try to keep it short, but basically the events that led me to making content on a regular basis, to hunting for jobs, and then to eventually finding a job out in LA, getting to LA, and then creating content after when I got fired from that job, and then making that my career. Might be a lot to cover. I don't know how long this video is going to go, but I'll try to keep it as short as I can. So during this time period, 2018, I decided I want to be a content creator. I want to do this on my own. I don't want to make it for anyone else. I want to make it for me. And so I made a pact with myself that if I could make one video every single week for a whole year, I was going to see major success, or I was going to see some sort of, movement or increase in my followers in a year's time. So that is exactly what I did for an entire year. I made one video every week, and particularly around April, May, which is when I actually made my first couple rave skits. I guess technically festival skits, because one was on Coachella, and then the next one was on EDC. And those coincidentally happens to be the two videos that first blew up for me. The Coachella video got like 10,000 views on Facebook, which at the time was like, oh my God, I would never even dreamed of that, because up until that point, and keep in mind, I had been making videos every week up until April, the maximum amount of views I'd ever gotten on something was maybe like 300 views, And then I came out with what people say after EDC, which was in May, around the time that EDC happened. And that video got 120,000 views on Facebook. And I was just completely blown away. And I knew I had hit something. But I didn't want to commit to doing only rave content just yet. I still wanted to just make regular comedy videos. And so 2018, I spent the entire year doing exactly what I had said. I made a video almost every single week for YouTube. I actually ended up just forming like a little production crew of people who were just down to help me every single week. Thank God for you guys, by the way. Shout out both Joshes, who helped me every week. Shout out Eric Lumens. Shout out one of my best friends, Nick. You guys really were there in the very beginnings and helped me get to where I am now, and I'm so grateful for that. But surprisingly enough, even after an entire year of making, video after video, week after week, I still was not seeing a huge increase in my followers or anything like that on social media. And then somewhere around the end of 2018, one of my cousins was getting married. I was at the wedding, and a bunch of my cousins came up to me and had asked me if I had met the groom's brother. And the groom's brother happened to be Noah Grossman from Smosh, for those of you guys who know Smosh. I know a lot of you are probably asking out there, like, how the fuck do I know Noah? Well, he's legally my cousin-in-law. And so at the wedding, my cousins all told me, hey, you should go and talk to Noah. He is really big in the content space. Like, isn't that what you're doing? So I went up to him, started talking to him. We hit it off and immediately set a date to start making videos together. And that kind of changed the course of things, because once I met Noah, we just started, doing the same thing that I was already doing, which was making a video every week, but we were doing short Instagram videos. I was also making content that I knew would get seen by other people, because Noah had a very large audience. I think Noah had, like 250,000 followers, maybe 300,000 or something at the time on Instagram. And, to me, that was like, oh my God, like, this guy is a god. And so we would make videos every week, and Noah would be in my skits and help me with my videos. I would help Noah with his videos. Me and Noah's friend Hamada, who I actually met through Noah, would also make videos. So the band, the crew kind of changed a little bit, and I found myself driving to LA pretty much every weekend to shoot at Hamada's place, who at the time lived in Santa Monica over on the west side of LA. And he had an apartment where they were always down to like let us shoot there. So we ended up kind of making that like our second home as far as shooting content went for all of 2019. And so real quick, before I move forward with the story, I just want to touch a little bit on what my mindset was the entire time all of this was happening. Because it wasn't just like I was only making content during the week and I had nothing else to do. Like, I had a whole ass part-time job that I was working. I was actually working at a school for 5 days a week, and then shooting on the weekends. I would still write my scripts once I got home. I was still going to the gym. Like, I was doing all of that. I was doing the most. But my mindset throughout all of this, and this was from end of 2017, early 2018, when I had made the decision that I wanted to be a content creator, all the way up until I moved to LA in 2020. My mindset throughout those almost 3 years was that I am going to do this until it works. I don't care what happens. I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care what obstacles come in my way. I'm going to do this and it will work. Completely not knowing that I was actually manifesting that, because in essence, that is how manifestation works. And I'll get a little more into this later after I finish telling the story, but for those of you who don't know, manifestation essentially is knowing. It is making a decision and knowing that this is the way that it is, because this is my reality, and I won't see this any other way. And for any of you guys out there who are maybe a little confused by this, just go check out the Power of I Am channel. That man has honestly explained everything so well, so easily, and really changed my life in the past couple months. And so it's cool that I can kind of explain things retrospectively in this way now that I have this sort of clarity. But back to the story. So 2019 comes around. Myself, Noah, Nick, and Hamada are making videos all throughout 2019. About early 2019, Nick was starting to become a little bit frustrated because at the time he had wanted to also pursue content creation with me because he thought it would be cool. But after a couple months of doing it, not really seeing a huge change in views or followers or anything like that, seeing how much work it was every week to meet up, set up our camera setup, come up with these shots, help each other shoot our videos, act, then edit. Like, it's a lot of work. It really was a lot of work. You have to love it in order to do it and not feel like it's a lot of work. And so Nick, in a way, just got a little impatient, like I feel most people do, and was like, I'm ready to move on to something that is going to get me to where I want to be in life a little faster. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nick's doing super well now. He's about to get married next year. I'm super happy for him, and he's absolutely killing it. Super happy with his life now. It just wasn't a thing that was for him. And this is really important because the mindset difference between myself and Nick, I would say was pretty drastic. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because I feel like this is oftentimes something that people come across when they're pursuing their dreams, when they're pursuing their passions, when they want to get out of their hometown and they're trying to move to the city or somewhere to pursue whatever it is that they're pursuing. I feel like a lot of people get stuck in seeing tangible results and not getting them fast enough to the point where they just assume this is not working, it doesn't work, I'm not going to do this, or this is too much work, I don't want to do this much work. Which is, in a way, totally fair, but the only reason I have gotten to the point where I'm at now, or even was able to do the things I was able to do, was because from the beginning, I had made the decision that I was going to do this until it worked. And I was sticking to that no matter what sort of obstacle came in my way, no matter how long it took, I was standing by my decision. So moving forward, the crew kind of narrowed down to myself, Noah, Hamada, and then maybe some other, collective friends along the way. 2019 is also the year that I met Nand, who a lot of you guys, if you watch my content, you know Nand. He's a rave dad. Now, somewhere around the end of 2019, I made the decision that I only wanted to make rave content because of the previous success of my other rave skits before that. And, the crew started to change a little bit more, people got busy. Eventually, Hamada kind of started getting involved in real estate, started doing some other stuff, and making videos just wasn't as important. Noah also got pretty busy with Smosh things. I can't remember everything that was going on, but I know that there was a lot going on around that time. And so he wasn't even able to meet every single weekend anymore. And in about end of 2019, I started to get doubts. And those doubts consisted of thoughts that were basically telling me, I don't want to keep living at home. I want to move to LA. And I had already been driving to LA basically every single weekend, if not to Hamada's place, to Nan's place, who also lived in LA. He lived in Culver City, again, also on the west side. And so driving to LA consistently, I would always envision myself in the drive there. Again, not consciously manifesting, but in a way I was manifesting this. As I would be out in LA, I would say, this is my home. This is my home. This is where I live. This is where I'm gonna be. And so around the end of 2019, I was blessed to have a job where I worked at a high school as like a teacher's aide. And this teacher would actually let me during the lunch breaks and during the off periods, once I had finished grading tests and stuff, he would actually let me edit my video content, which was really cool of him. Around the same time, TikTok came out also, so I was posting a lot of my shorter videos onto TikTok, and those would actually do really well because a lot of them had Noah in them. Noah had a big audience. And so I was actually able to gain a pretty large following in a short amount of time on TikTok. But anyways, end of 2019, I was feeling very doubtful with the speed at which things were happening. And I just wanted to be in LA. I was tired of living at home. I was tired of seeing the same faces over there. And so I kind of was just fed up, and I made the decision, I'm going to LA. I'm going to get to LA. I don't care how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get there. And I had already been saying that before, but again, the speed at which things were happening was not doing it for me. Even though I do feel like everything was unfolding to the way that it was supposed to, which is another big concept in manifestation, is to look at everything as, it's all unfolding perfectly. It's all unfolding in my favor, sticking to your decision of what you want and knowing that it is yours. And so at the time, I told myself, okay, I'm going to do what my dad had been begging me to do for like the past 2 years, which was to look for jobs in LA. Or try to find an actual job that had good pay. The high school was good part-time money, but the main reason I was working at the high school was because it allowed me to still do my video content on the side. I was only working like 5 hours a day versus, a normal 8 hours a day. And, in that 5 hours, I was able to even edit my videos sometimes during the lunch breaks or whatever, which was really helpful. To be honest, I could have found a full-time job somewhere else, but I didn't want to do it because I knew it was going to take up a lot of my time. And if that happened, I wouldn't have been able to make video content anymore. And that would obviously detract from my goal, which was to get to LA and have a job as a full-time content creator. And so anyway, I started applying for jobs, and at this point, it had been 2 years after I'd graduated, so I really wasn't sure if any jobs were going to take me because, to be honest, I didn't have too many qualifications at the time. I had a lot of experience with production and a lot of experience with filmmaking, so a lot of the jobs that I applied for were related to that. But again, I wasn't in the film industry. I didn't want to be in the film industry, so I wasn't applying for jobs there. I was more so looking for actual positions that I would be able to showcase my video editing and video production skills as much as I could. To my surprise, after just a few weeks of applying for jobs regularly, pretty much looking on ZipRecruiter every day, I actually found a listing for a tech startup. It's a dance company in downtown LA. And once again, I just want to highlight my mindset during this time. As I was looking for these jobs, my mindset was, I am going to find a job in LA because I am in LA. I belong in LA. That is where I am going to be. And I will do this until I find something that's there. Once again, not knowing that I was actually manifesting that to be. So anyway, I'm applying for the jobs. I come across this listing for this tech startup in LA and send in my application. I'm not gonna mention the name of the tech startup, but for those of you guys who have been following me for a really long time, you probably do know. They get back to me within a week, and apparently the people had actually gone and watched a bunch of my videos, thought I was hilarious, and wanted to schedule an interview with me. So in December, I went to go interview with them, drove all the way to LA, got to go to their office. Absolutely loved their office. As I was going in, I really just felt like, I'm here. I got all the way here, I was dressed super nice for my interview. And once I got there, I was nervous, but I knew that this was all just meant to happen. So there was a sense of comfort. There was a sense of knowing that this is how everything was unfolding for me. So I went in, killed my interview, and a couple weeks later, got hired, said goodbye to my job at the high school, and I moved on to this new job out at this tech startup in downtown LA. Anyways, we're now going into the beginning of 2020. I worked at the job for about 3-4 months and was commuting to and from the office from my home in Orange County, living with my mom. This was obviously around the time that the pandemic hit, so everyone was starting to stay indoors. And even though the commute to the office wasn't too bad because there weren't a lot of people out on the road, it was still starting to take a toll as far as mileage went. And so after a couple months of working at this tech startup, making sure my job was secure, I felt like it was time for me to move out of my mom's place and try to find somewhere in LA. The only problem was I didn't have a roommate or any sort of person to move in with because I didn't really have a lot of friends out in LA, and I really could not afford to just live on my own right off the bat. However, while working at this tech startup, I met one of my best friends to this day. He's actually the editor for the podcast, might even be editing this video even. I had met one of my best friends, Robert, who actually at the time had just gotten hired at this tech startup about a week or two before me. And so we were both new, we both hit it off right away, had the same sense of humor, and got along super well. So I went to him and I told him about my situation and said, hey man, I'm looking to move to LA. I think you and I would make great roommates. I can't live on my own. Do you have a situation in which that would be possible maybe in the next couple months to maybe even a year? And again, at the time I was telling myself, nope, this is going to happen because I have to be in LA. LA is my new home. I belong in LA. And so miraculously, I found out that Robert was actually trying to get out of his previous situation, which I guess was not really the best situation for him. And so he was more than happy to oblige on this offer. And so Robert and I did some apartment hunting. We ended up finding a place in LA that was pretty well priced, especially because during the pandemic, a lot of apartment complexes were way cheaper than they are now. Because the cost of living right now is really bad, and I don't even want to start talking about it. But we found this place together, and I moved to LA in April of 2020, and that will forever be one of the most exciting days of my life, because it was one of the days stapled into my memory as me doing the goddamn thing that I said I was going to do 3 years prior. And so thus began my journey in LA. Now, I ended up working at this tech startup for about a year and a half. And during this time, I was still making content, rave content and sketch content, but I wasn't making it as much because my job at this tech startup was a full-time job, did take up a lot of my hours during the day. I was also working as a YouTube coordinator for this tech startup's YouTube channel, which did take a lot of my creative juices at the time and made me a little bit more, I don't know, I guess you could say tired for when I had to script write for my own content. And I was perfectly willing to accept this at the time because, to be honest, at this point, I really had just wanted to move to LA so badly, and I wanted to be out there so badly and to also be making substantial money that I didn't really care that I was making content less than I was before. However, after working at this tech startup for about a year and a half, I'm not going to go into details about what happened or anything like that, but there was a lot of stuff that transpired while I was working at this tech startup. My supervisor, while I was working there at the time, we didn't really get along. And so a lot happened, and I ended up actually getting fired from this tech startup, which I don't feel like was the most fair decision. But to be fair to them, they were also letting go of a lot of people at this time. Even though I was fired and they were let go, there is a difference. I won't go into that. The pandemic was on its way out, and this tech startup, well, their product highly relied on people staying home. So I felt like if, I hadn't gotten fired, I probably would have gotten let go eventually anyway. But after this happened, I immediately had this panic crisis moment of, oh my God, I'm jobless. What the hell am I going to do in order to continue living out here in LA? And at the time, Robert was also planning to move to Oregon with his girlfriend at the time. And so I was not only going to be jobless, but in like 3-4 months' time, I was actually not going to have a roommate anymore and had no idea what I was going to do. And so I made the decision once again that I was going to completely buckle down on making content. TikTok was blowing up at this time, and so I made the decision that, hey, maybe I should go back into making the rave content full force once again. But not only that, I was going to make rave content in TikTok form, and I was going to do it until it worked, which was always the mindset that I had chosen that worked out for me. And so that is exactly what I did. I got super lucky at the time and actually had just worked with a festival brand that I'm not going to mention their name also, but the owner of this company actually was able to give me an editing job not too long after I had just done some video work for the company. And this was able to sustain me while I was just making TikToks every single night, rave TikToks, anything I could think of in TikTok form. I was making it during this time because I had no other choice. I had to make this work or I was gonna have to move back home to Orange County, and I did not want to do that. All right, outfit change and room change because I'm now in the future. I was watching back the edit of this video and realized I left out a very, very important detail of this entire timeline, which was that I was on a game show right before I got fired from working at the tech startup I was working for a year and a half. And I won't go into all of the details of how this transpired, but that entire experience, which, by the way, we won. It was me, my mom, and my 2 aunts. We actually ended up winning this game show. It was called Family Game Feud, and it was with Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell, if you guys know those actors. And it was crazy because when I got the email originally to audition for the show, I originally thought it was spam. So at first I kind of discarded the email, but then I went back to it and reread it, responded to the email. They sent me back maybe a couple days later about how they wanted to schedule an interview or some sort of like audition with me and my family. I showed the flyer to my mom. We looked over it. We were like, all right, well, let's just do it and see what happens. And it ended up being totally legit. And it's so funny because I was talking with my mom about this the other week. My mom is also really big on manifestation. And it was crazy because both of us remember clearly the first day we stepped foot on set to shoot the game show. And I think it was like 3 days that we had to shoot. From literally the split second we set foot on the set, my mom and I knew we were gonna win. Like, there was no question. It wasn't even like, oh, I hope we win. Like, we were like, no, we're winning. And the reason I bring this up, because it's so important to the timeline, is because if we had not won that game show, which we won $90K on the game show. I mean, granted, we had to split between 4 of us, and then you have to account for taxes. So, you know, we really only made away with like, I don't know, maybe like 16, 17K each after taxes, which, oh my God, is horrible. If it was not for that money, I would not have been able to stay here in LA. That money covered my rent for like probably the next 8 months to even a year. I was also able to buy some of my own equipment with some of the money that we won from the game show. So between that and having the editing job that I got from my friend, I was able to just focus fully on making TikTok content and do that. And coincidentally, but not really, because, you know, everything is unfolding perfectly. That's how manifestation works. By the time I ran out of funds from the game show, I was actually able to get unemployment from when I worked at the tech company, which is a whole other thing, by the way, that got delayed. That was kind of BS, but I'm not going to get into that. But I was able to get the unemployment money from that. So that lasted me for like maybe another half year. And by the time that ran out, I had basically been able to sustain myself as a full-time content creator. It's crazy because with manifestation, it's just so non-logical that you literally cannot predict what the hell is going to happen next. There is no way in hell I would have thought we would have gotten a random email from some casting agency for us to go on this really big network TV show and win. Like, what? But then again, the way I see it, all of this was happening and unfolding so that I could stay out here and I could continue to pursue what I was trying to do. But before I get too ahead of myself, let me go back to past Devin and I'll let him finish telling the rest of the story. So I kept making the rave content, and eventually I got hit up by a company who asked me to be part of their affiliate program, which allowed me to go to festivals for free. I met a bunch of content creators during this time, including Bryn, including Mickey. You guys know her better as Wonderly. I met a lot of other content creators in this space. We formed the podcast in, I think, around November of 2022. November 2022 is also the time where I was doing so well in making my rave content, and I was getting enough brand deals, and I was making enough money from Facebook bonuses program, RIP. Really sad that that's not around anymore. And so I was able to actually quit my part-time editing job working for my friend's other company, even though that was a huge help while I was getting myself situated during this time. And from there, I basically lived my life as a full-time content creator. I do want to wrap up this story so that I can just get to the full point of how I was able to manifest all of this for myself just with sticking to my decision of what I wanted to do. And so throughout this entire 3 to 4 year process of me starting to make my content after I graduated from college into making videos once a week, every single week, working a part-time job at a high school, to then applying for jobs out in LA, miraculously getting a job, even though I feel like I had 0 qualifications practically based off of the degree I had gotten, but not realizing that a lot of the content and work that I had made did make me qualified in their perspective. I was able to get all of these opportunities and allow all these things to unfold for me because of the mindset I will do this until it works. And for those of you who don't know me personally, I am extremely stubborn when it comes to my goals and the things that I want. I just approached it with this tenacity of, I will have this thing and I do not care what life throws at me. I don't care what happens. I am going to do this until it works out in this way for me. And that is exactly what happened. And this video is getting pretty long, so I'm not gonna make it too much longer. I'll definitely go into another video about how this mindset has been applied to other areas of my life. But this has really been present in so many other areas of my life, like the gym, like relationships. You can really apply it to anything you want. But in this case, it was career, and it was, moving out here and pursuing my dream. And so I just want to say to anyone out there that is pursuing their dreams, creative endeavors, if you're trying to move out of your small hometown into the big city, my biggest tip in retrospect, and now that I have the knowledge on manifestation that I currently have, my advice is stick to your decision. And it may be a little cliche, but literally don't give up. But not like in a, don't give up. I mean, don't give up as if your life depended on it. Because that's how I treated this entire thing. Basically, as if my life depended on it, I said that I would make this work until it did. And so when I did that, there was a sense of knowing. There was a sense of decision, like this is my thing and no one can take that away from me. And at this time, I didn't really even know too much about manifestation. Like, I had been introduced to it in college. I learned about law of attraction in college, and then I learned about law of assumption much later on, actually after I left the tech startup, not until maybe 2022. And law of assumption is now much more what I resonate with. But I don't even know if I want to call it law of assumption anymore. Manifestation is just knowing. It is making your decision now, saying this thing is mine and it belongs to me. And for any of you guys out there that have manifested, some crazy shit, or you actually have achieved some of your dreams or all of your dreams or whatever, then you know that when you made that decision with confidence, that was the moment in which things really started to work out for you. And so once again, just to wrap up this video, because I know it's been a really long time, I just want to say, first, decide what you want, make your decision and stick to it, and do not let anything else detract from your decision to do that. Just like how in 2018, 2019, when I had friends who were helping me create the content in the beginning and wanted to maybe do this as a career, but then they were like, oh, this isn't making money fast enough. This isn't getting me to where I want to go fast enough. I did not let that detract from my goal of wanting to make this my full-time job. And even in the midst of me getting frustrated, even in the midst of me having kind of those same sort of doubts of, is this really getting me to where I want to go? Should I just give up and get a real job? And my answer to that every single time was a resounding hell no. So I stood there and said, no, I will do this until it works. I will make my decision. And at the time, even my dad, who grew up in corporate and was basically corporate his whole life, wanted me to actually look for a real business job. And, Dad, I love you if you're watching this out there. But, I didn't want to do that because I knew that that was not going to make me happy. And so just to end this video, don't give up on your dreams, make your decision, stick to it, and do not let anything else get in the way of your decision. Know the thing is yours, know it belongs to you, and let everything unfold. Don't try to control or get in the way of anything that's happening. It's not up to you to control every little thing that happens along the way. If you start to have doubts, if you start to get frustrated, I do believe that if you're going to do something about it, make sure that when you do it, you feel confident in doing it. When I knew that I wanted to get to LA and I wasn't getting to LA fast enough and I started applying for jobs, I knew when I started applying for jobs that this was going to work. This was going to get me to LA. I made that decision. I didn't start applying for jobs and think, oh, well, what if no one takes me? Or what if I'm just stuck in Orange County forever? No, I said, if I do this, I'm going to get a job in LA and I'm going to move to LA because that's what I decided I want to do and I'm going to do it. So make the decision, let everything unfold, don't get in the way, and stick to your guns. All right, guys, that's it. It's 2:37 a.m. in the morning. I need to go to bed, and so I want to do more videos like this. So if you enjoyed watching this all the way through, or if you made it this far, I really appreciate you. I definitely want to do some more manifestation talk. I definitely want to talk more about my experience as a content creator out here in LA, doing what I do, continuing to grow my businesses and all of the other stuff I've got going on. So if you enjoy this, let me know. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Leave a like and a comment, and keep it plur. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.